Says here we're live. So, welcome to episode 72 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast, recorded June 14th, 2020. My name is Ian and I live on Vancouver Island. I'm an outdoor enthusiast, sport shooter, my farm's designated handyman.
I'm Alan. I'm a safety trainer, first responder, security expert, overall safety nerd, and I just wanted to say happy 243rd birthday to the U.S. Army today.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yep. It is also the 241st birthday of the American flag.
Oh, so was this like Lexington, or was it Concord or whatever it was, the opening shots?
Concord, yes.
Yes. Okay. Well, there you go.
Yep. There you go.
I had no idea. Okay. Want to help support the show and keep Canadian Prepper Podcast on the air? Buy a Canadian Prepper Podcast t-shirt at rapidsurvival.com. All proceeds help keep the lights on and the backup generator fueled.
And if you are enjoying the show, please take a few minutes, like us on Facebook, and submit a review on iTunes. We also want your feedback, good, bad, or indifferent, even if it's just a topic you want us to cover. You can email us at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca.
All right, Eric's not here to do the dad jokes, so we have some containerized content for you this episode. We're going to start off with some preparedness-related news. Next, we'll let you know what we did for some preparedness since our last episode. Then we'll get into the main topic, which is compact 72-hour kits.
I put one article in here tonight. The people of Yemen are having a bit of an issue with a civil war, and it seems that the Saudis are funding one side and the Iranians are funding the other side, and somebody's the government and somebody's the rebels, and somebody's causing discourse for their own gain, and that may or may not seem to strike a chord with things that are happening stateside.
And I say one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. So it's just like Vietnam. You know, they got war by proxies and everything else. It's something we should probably tackle at some point, right?
Yep.
All right. So for myself, so it turns out they did send some viruses to China after all. So if you remember back in last July, before the COVID thing hit, of course, there was a Chinese scientist unceremoniously booted from the Winnipeg Level 4 biosecurity lab, and they were all like, "Don't worry, administrative procedure only. Don't get conspiracy theory on us. It's nothing serious." And they lied. So
no kidding.
no kidding. So it turns out the documents have come to light now that indeed the scientist in question, along with her husband and a couple of her students, sent Ebola, I think like Hepidin or some other virus that starts with an H, anyways, and a couple other choice little samples over to the Wuhan biosecurity lab.
I wonder if any of them were coronaviruses.
Yeah, I wonder. And of course, so I guess this one's leaning more towards conspiracy fact at this point. So there's a couple articles out there, but they're still referring to her as a Canadian scientist on CBC, but only because she was working in Canada when she was doing this. Not that she's Canadian national, because you don't want to offend certain countries, I guess, right?
She was a scientist for Canada when it happened. It's a stretch, but I mean, what does the CBC do if they don't stretch?
Exactly. So, other than that, it was Hail-Ma-Geddon in Calgary yesterday. So I put a news article in there on another one from Pravda, the CBC, about the hailstorm that was flooding Calgary yesterday. Did you see any pictures from that?
I didn't. I've been a little busy. I didn't put it in the news, but there was a tornado touchdown about 2.5 miles from my house Wednesday night. So that those are the pictures I was focusing on.
Okay, yeah. So normally, of course, Calgary is pretty much an arid city, right? Like it's brown all but for 3 weeks of the year, theoretically. And this time they had enough hail come down in such a short term. They actually had rivers of hail going down, and the traveling prepper sent me a video as well, and it actually showed like literally rivers of hail meeting up on the sidewalk and going by his house. Like the main highway north south, the number 2 or Queen Elizabeth Way, was completely shut down. It had like feet of water on it, and there was like siding removed. Cars, like the windshields got they were bigger than golf ball size. Actually, they were like egg sized hail going through everything. And so they figure is in the hundreds of millions of dollars damage just in the space of like 15 minutes.
Wow. So question, if 2 rivers of hail meet at an intersection, who gets the right of way?
I guess the first on the one on the right. I don't know, but yeah, it was very interesting because it was just like a fast moving glacier. You could just see it, right? And it was just pretty amazing.
That would probably be really disturbing to be in. So if there's any listeners out there that were there, I'd love to hear. We'd love to hear what happened and your experience with it.
Well, yeah, not just their experience, but like what they did to deal with it. Because I mean, I'm sure there's some roofs damaged. There was some flooding issues in basements and everything else. It'd be interesting to see what kind of the personal experience they had it was.
Yeah, so that's So if you're in the Hamilton area, then let us know. Or Hamilton, wow, Calgary area, they're basically the same place, right? Let us know. See, we'd love to see and hear and talk about what happened.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to what we've done lately for preps. So for myself, since Eric decided to show disdain for the listeners and not show up, see here. As for myself, I met up with the listener, Steve, and he's the one that helped me get set up with the ham radio examiner. And so we got to talk a little bit of ham radio over a cup of coffee, and he brought out one of his drones over. So I got to see my ideal drone in action, which is a little Mavic Mini. Yeah, we had a good exchange of ideas. It's nice to have a like-minded guy close by, so that's good. Hopefully, we'll see more of him. And let's see here. Did some more wood processing, just basically like clearing underbrush, working on that fire break I've been working on. I'm down to the last quarter, but it's really thick jungle. So and I got a couple giant fir trees to get rid of too. But yeah, working on it.
Have a chainsaw, will travel.
Yeah, it's amazing how you can do like 5 minutes worth of chainsawing and then have to deal with the cleanup for the next 3 or 4 days because some of these trees are so massive, right?
Absolutely.
So my quad, I fixed that one again because I'd worked on the carburetor and a couple of things with the island mentor there, and unfortunately, I think I had actually left the fuel line a little loose, and so it drained out an entire tank of gas onto my ground, which really sucks. And so, anyways, I had to like tear everything off again, get into the carburetor, which is like underneath the seat and hard to reach, and I had to figure out what the problem was. When I'm pretty sure it's the fuel supply line. So anyway, that's back online. See here at work. Unfortunately, I had to work for most of the days between this episode and the last, so boo. And basically, yeah, other than that, I pretty much take a bit of a hiatus from prepping just for the last, or next couple of weeks anyways, because we're still trying to primp the house, getting ready for a sale, maybe possible relocation. We'll see. All depends on how everybody else reacts to this COVID thing economically. So
it's still a financial prep. I wouldn't call that taking a break from prepping. I would just call that changing focus.
That's true. I mean, because I'm increasing the resale value or at least preserving it, and yeah, it's less
retreating. We're advancing in a new direction.
That's right. So but just all the cool prepping gets put on hold for now, though.
Anyway. I also did nothing terribly exciting. Got some camping in this weekend, which is great. Go out, get just rely on what's in my car. Kind of made a kit list of things that I want to change so that I can be even faster and more efficient at camping. I'm using air quotes there, although my camera's off, you can't see that. So being more efficient at camping makes me more efficient at bugging out should the need arise. So that was kind of had a dual purpose there. A couple of weeks ago, I had a rather humiliating experience trying to light a campfire in the backyard. So I've been really focusing my attention on the proper laying and lighting skills, and it's been a challenge to get back to single match, no accelerant, and just reminding myself of the basics. It's easy to get fancy and deal with all kinds of major stuff, but if you can't light a fire, nothing else matters. So that's been my thing for the last couple of weeks. I didn't think I was going to talk about it, but since it's just the two of us, while I was camping this weekend, the way that the campsite was laid out, I ended up quite by accident driving over a tire rim that serves as a fire pit. Well, I only got so far, and then it came to rest on the frame, and I was stuck. So that was kind of a fun little exercise. What do I have in my car that I can, get my car boosted up with and get it out? And by the way, the ground is a little bit soft, so having to, figure out the firewood situation to get my, you get enough firewood under the jack to get it up to keep it stable, and then get the rim out so that I could actually drive. And it was an embarrassing experience. The people that I was camping with, of course, took a lot of pictures rather than offer a lot of help. But
as good friends should do, right?
As good friends should do, right? But it was I got really, really lucky that I didn't damage anything, and then it was just a matter of getting the car up high enough to get this tire rim out. But it was again just a reminder that stupid things happen. That was literally a few seconds lack of focus. Lost sight of that tire rim in my in a blind spot in my car, and all of a sudden my SUV was completely stranded. If I hadn't had the jack in my car, and if I hadn't had the wherewithal to figure out that problem, it would have been at the very least a significantly more expensive problem to solve. So so it's just pay attention, make sure that you test your kit, make sure you know how it all works. That's the lesson I learned there.
Isn't that the worst feeling ever when you got that jack and you're trying to like get the vehicle off and all it's doing is just driving it into the mud?
Mm-hmm. And it took me about 15 seconds to figure out that that's what was happening, and going, man, I'm gonna have to come up with another plan. And what's my other plan? What are my other options? What do I have available? What are my tools? So, which again was really entertaining because in the end, again, because there was no major damage, I could just sit back and breathe and go, okay, my worst case scenario is I need to call a tow truck. My best case scenario is I can figure this out on my own. And as it was, I was able to figure it out. So that worked out well.
I got a comment here from the infamous E in Calgary, and it says southeast corner of town is where they're in. So it was pretty quiet for them. However, downtown in the northeast area took a beating. So I think the northeast area, and not to pigeonhole people, but that is kind of the poorer area of town too. So that's not going to go over well either.
It's there's never a good place for it, but there are places that have better resources to resolve the issue. And without going off on a huge political rant, then there are places, parts of town that are going to get the attention faster than others.
Well, not just that, but also actually, it's kind of a funny story. I met my wife and she was living in the northeast side. But anyways, it's basically like an extraordinarily high crime rate compared to the rest of the city. Take from that what you will, but it's just like it's actually kind of funny. So whether it be opportunistic crimes with everything down with the hailstorm or whatever, that could be a bigger problem. But anyway,
Wait, people take advantage of disasters for their own opportunities?
It turns out, yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's the second time today. That's the second time this episode that I have been surprised.
Yeah, not as surprised as it looks like Sean and Freya were surprised that the government actually hid the truth about the Winnipeg thing.
That's again, it just absolutely mind blown that's happened.
Yeah. Anyway, other than that, I think that's pretty much it. Move on.
I think that topic. That's lots of things. Yeah, let's go on to the main topic.
You first.
All right, so I decided to just make kind of a general purpose 3-day bucket. So whether you're at home and there's a disaster, if you're going somewhere, toss it in a car, you can take this at the cottage, hunt camp, wherever. 5-gallon bucket doesn't take up a lot of space. It has a lot of uses. And so that was kind of where this came from. So start with the bucket itself, a nice heavy duty food grade bucket. If you're going to do this and you're going to make an emergency kit out of it, get the Gamma lid. It's a screw-on adapter. It's just makes good sense. I would wrap the outside of that with 100 feet of nice wide Gorilla tape, just so that you've got duct tape around, because I think it was Nietzsche said that without duct tape, life is meaningless. I mean, it might have been music, but I'm pretty sure it was duct tape.
I think you were paraphrasing there, but yeah, no,
maybe a little bit. But
I guess I'd never even thought of that. That's a really good idea, because think about it. If you're tossing this bucket in the back of the truck, and you know how easy buckets crack, right?
Yep.
It means it's that extra layer of protection for the bucket. It's like tape you can use. It's obviously hard to miss that bucket if you're trying to grab one off the shelf or whatever. There's a million good reasons for doing that. It's actually really good.
I used to work with a former Canadian military combat engineer, and everything that he had, his water bottles, his knife handles, his backpack straps, everything was wrapped in duct tape. And he said, if you can't find a use for 10 feet of duct tape somewhere, you're not what he said was, I've never been somewhere in which I didn't have 10 feet of duct tape, but I've been lots of places in which I did. So just wrapping it on the outside, it gets it out of the way. It doesn't take up any room inside, doesn't take up any space. It doesn't add any weight. So that's number one on the outside. So inside the bucket, number one, 8x12 heavy duty tarp. That's big enough to make a shelter out of. It's big enough to cover a hole in your roof. It's big enough to, I used it on the weekend to make a windbreak around the fire pit so that we could keep our fire going without blowing everywhere. Get a heavy duty one. I don't really care. I'm not particular on the color. However, I would say that the brighter the better if you are going into a place where being visible is important. So a blue or green tarp would have or a brown or green tarp would have more of a tendency to blend in if you're in the woods. If blending in is important, then that's good. If you want to stand out, then maybe go with a different color. Keep.
Sorry to interrupt there. Quick question from Freya there. Where would you get a food grade bucket?
I mean, you can buy them on Amazon. You can get them at where I get most of my buckets is from the local Firehouse Subs. The local Firehouse Subs franchises. They sell their pickle buckets, which are it's a 5-gallon bucket. There's a red, and they sell the buckets when they're done, and all the money goes to helping firefighter charities, which is important in my life. But it's a cheap bucket. Like, it's $2. It has a lid on it. It doesn't have the gamma lid, but it has a lid. It has a handle. They're in perfect condition, used once, food grade, and all that good stuff. Home Depot and Lowe's, their buckets are food grade. If you wanted to go with just a white one, they're you can buy them really cheap on Amazon too. So if you're doing an order anyways, then go ahead and add it. The Home Depot and Lowe's buckets, by the way, are horribly expensive. And check with your local. Check with your local food distributors, right? They, they've got all kinds of stuff that comes in buckets that they don't get used. And your florists, the local flower shops, all have dozens upon dozens of buckets that are just sitting around. And if you've got somebody in that industry that can make a couple disappear, then you won't be out any money at all.
Yeah, so the little symbol on the bottom, the recycling symbol, it's got the triangle with 3 arrows. Usually you're looking for a code number 2 or a code 5, I think. 2 for sure, anyway. That's the HDB level 2, which is food grade, which the Home Depot buckets are. And there's another shop if you want like a thicker walled bucket that won't break as easily, because the Home Depot buckets are expensive and they shatter like you wouldn't believe. Go to the there's a local store here on the island called Industrial Plastics and Paints. But any like I said, any restaurant probably has food grade buckets that are like thick walled, because they don't want their cookie dough or whatever spilling all over the floor. So they tend to get quality buckets. And then that's certainly, there's tons of places to get them. And like food grade is it's kind of a catch-all term, but basically you just want something that isn't going to poison your food, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, not that I would ever plan. I mean, you're not going to plan to use this for food, but it's better to have and not need than to need and not have. And so if my last resort is I've got that bucket to scoop water out of the river, and it's leaching chemicals into that water, then if I have the choice of that or not leaching chemicals, then I'll take the not leaching. So that's kind of where I was going with that. So the big heavy tarp, get a new one and leave it in the package so it's nice and compact. If you've ever tried to refold a tarp, you know that it's never as flat as when you buy it first. You also know that if it's new, then it's in really good condition. Although if it's not, you have 100 feet of duct tape to fix it with. I would put a couple of space blankets in there just so that you've got a way to reflect heat back on yourself. 500 feet of paracord. They usually come in 100-foot packages, so I would get a few different colors just because I'm like that, but whatever floats your boat. Paracord, again, nice and light and reasonably strong. I wouldn't want to try and rappel with it or anything, but it would it'll hold up your tarp and keep you secure. Throw some tent pegs in there. Where I'm going with that is if you find yourself broken down at the side of the road, you have to walk somewhere, you need to make a shelter, you've got the ability with rope, tent pegs, and a tarp to keep yourself dry and out of the wind. So after survival, my next highest priority is probably water. So I would throw a couple of water pouches, like collapsible water pouches. So not water bottles, because they take up a lot of space. Even when they're empty, you can pack them full of stuff, or you can just get the collapsible pouches, whichever you like. Throw a Sawyer water filter in there. You can get that at rapidsurvival.com, just for the record. And
the Sawyer comes with one of the collapsible water pouches, right?
There you go. So you've got, so the idea is you've got with the idea of 2, one is none, right? But also, if you have to collect dirty water from somewhere and then clean it, you've got one clean container and one dirty container, so that you have you're not contaminating your only source. So that is that's kind of your basics. I would throw a fixed blade knife in there just because I like knives. People will make fun of Bear Grylls Gerber knives all day long within the outdoors community. I've had a few of them. I bought a bunch of them on sale one time when I was at Bass Pro. They had a little basket of them, and I bought a whole bunch. I've done everything with those knives. They take an edge pretty well. They keep the edge not badly. I can baton with it. I can whittle with it. Duct tape and paracord wrapped around the handle because that's a great idea. They also have a little whistle built in. They have a sharpener. They have a sparker built into that. Like they're for $30, they're an excellent investment in my opinion. I had one in the sheath came apart, and I called Gerber and they sent me a new one without any hesitation. So people make fun of that, but it's a cheap, easy, reliable way to get a knife in there. I would rather go with a fixed blade than a folding blade, just because it'll do more. A fixed blade will do just about everything the folding blade will do, but the folding blade won't do everything the fixed blade will. Half a roll of toilet paper and wet ones put in separate plastic baggies. We've talked about sanitation and why that's important. Toilet paper will also get you through fire lighting. Wet ones will keep you from stinking too badly / getting fungal infections, and all kinds of other stuff. I would throw some hand sanitizer and a little dish soap into the box, the bucket. A couple of MREs, some oatmeal pouches, mostly some spices. If you've never had an MRE before, I encourage you to do this in a time when you don't have to rely on it. They are not good. Like MREs are designed to be compact, long-lasting. They do not taste good. A little spice, a little baggie of even taco seasoning makes the worst food a little bit more palatable. If you've ever been out in the woods for any length of time and foraged for your own food, it is bland. It does not taste very good. So if that is part of your plan, if part of your capabilities, a little, even a Tic Tac container full with some taco seasoning will go a long way. And I'm using those.
Yeah, say whatever your preference is: taco seasoning, curry powder, salt, pepper, whatever. It's a morale booster too, really.
Absolutely, it's a morale booster as much as anything else. So some MREs just because it's quick and easy. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to forage. I don't have to hope that I can find something along the way. I put oatmeal pouches in there because oatmeal is easy to make. It's easy to eat. Doesn't take a lot of effort. But it's lots of fiber and carbohydrates to keep you going. I would also throw in there a little mess tin, so it's got a mug and a pot to heat that stuff up with. I would put in there a tinder bundle and some fire starters, just so that you've got a way to make a fire. Again, practice the skill. It is perishable. I would put a couple of candles in there, just some long burning. I think I bought a box of them on Amazon. I think I bought 50 of them for about $9, and they're about 8 inches long, and they're just white candles. They don't look like much, but they burn for hours and hours and hours. And one of the things I remember being told when I was, I think I was in Scouts, my Scoutmaster said, anytime you light a match, light a candle, because the candle will burn for significantly longer. It doesn't blow out as easily, and it gives you more option, and you'll find yourself in better shape. So that was just one of those things that I've always taken with me. Seems to work. I would always put a compass and a whistle in there. Fox 40 is my kind of favorite whistle. You can't overblow it. They're pretty durable. Even when part of it's broken, it'll still make a good noise. Compass, go back to that. We did an orienteering episode or a navigation episode. It was one of the early ones, I think, probably number around 20 somewhere, but go back and learn. Make sure you know how to use it, right? I put a couple of portable radios like the Baofangs, along with a printed list of the frequencies to monitor. So all the weather stations in Canada broadcast on specific frequencies. I found a list just by doing a quick Google search, as well as having predetermined frequencies for communication, especially with other people that you are expected to talk with. So there are all kinds of networks of people out there, and if you have an assistance group you're trying to get to, or if you just have if you're just separated from your family, if everybody knows which station to be on, you're more likely to be able to find them and talk it over. Seasonally appropriate hat and gloves. So it's this time of year it's a ball cap to keep the sun off my eyes. In the winter it's a toque and a pair of nice warm gloves. Always work gloves. I would also throw in there a 2-pound dead blow hammer and some kind of pry bar that also has a gas shutoff key carved into it. Normally, I would say grab a FUBAR from Stanley and put that in there, but it doesn't fit in a bucket. I tried. So rather than that, those two items, I mean, sometimes it's a matter, sometimes the difference between an emergency and an inconvenience is the ability to solve a problem. And with the right set of tools and the right mindset, most problems can be solved. If you are an electronics geek, I was mostly hoping to kind of ping at Eric for that, but he's not here. So when you're listening to this, Eric, power packs so that for all the electronics you can't live without, and garbage bags. So kitchen size bags for your for that will fit in your bucket, and full size bags because the rest of life needs garbage bags. You can use that bucket. So I would put all of that stuff in a bag in the bucket so that you can use the bucket separately. And then also, if you have need, you can turn that bucket into a porta potty. And if you've got it lined, then it's easy enough to deal with.
Actually, and a good point too is like the garbage bags can be turned into ponchos. Worst case scenario. You totally nailed me on the gloves. Like I forgot about work gloves. There's never a bad time for work gloves, right?
Oh, never.
But the gas shut-off key, you mean for natural gas supply for the house?
Yep, absolutely. So so the pry bar that I have, it's a flat bar, and there's just a little square cutout in it, and it's big enough to get on the shut-off valve of the gas meter and just crank it off. By the way, those shut-off valves, for everybody listening, will go 360 degrees. Just always a quarter turn. Doesn't matter which way, but if you turn it a quarter turn, it's a ball valve. It will turn off. So that's just one of those things. And if you've turned off the gas, don't turn it back on. Cool. So that's my list. That's just that would get you through a couple of days of stop the leakage and figure out what you're doing with the rest of your life. Cool.
Got a comment from Blake and Tia here. They actually use a 53-liter storage tub, which seems pretty big. It's like 10 gallon. No, more than that. Anyways, yeah, it's like 15 gallon almost. Anyways, enough to feed a family of 5, 20 liters of water, change of clothes, and a bunch of stuff in vacuum sealed bags. Always a good idea too. Yeah, it says there's prone to large scale floods and fire in Australia. That's where they're calling from. And the storage camera is small enough to fit in the boot of a car, but strong enough to use as a food prep table or a seat. That's a good point.
Fantastic. I mean, this is, there are of course a million ways to accomplish this goal. While I was out camping this weekend, I made the decision. So my kitchen box is currently probably a 20-liter tote, and I decided to do the exact same thing and upgrade it to a nice heavy 50-liter tote. I'm going to Home Depot tomorrow to pick one of those up so that it can do all of those things, especially using it as a food prep table. Because I was out camping this weekend and decided that if I'm at a campsite, there's usually a table, like a picnic table, but if I happen to be broken down on the side of the road, they probably won't have that luxury. So that's a really valid point. The other thing that you can use this bucket for, right? If you are by yourself, right, a 5-gallon bucket with a lid, you've made your shelter. Now you've got something to sit on. It's just another advantage of that, which is why I would also suggest putting all this stuff in a bag inside the bucket so that you can sit on the bucket and not lose access to all your stuff.
Cool. Yeah. So like, I think you covered a lot of it, but actually I just had a couple of differences there. Same thing. I was actually searching around the shed here looking for an extra bucket with an extra gamma lid, and I don't have any right now. So I was like, okay, how am I going to do this for show and tell? So actually I came across something. Funny story on the island here. There's too many tourists on the island at any given point, and they're always having stuff fall off their vehicles. So I've had propane tanks and a bunch of other stuff come my way, including a water cooler, that insulated water cooler type of thing. So it was free, which is great. But it is insulated, which can be a good thing. It has a nice tight seal with the lid that comes with it, which is right here. But it actually has right on there the symbol of HDPE2. So obviously, if it's going to be good for food beverages, it's good for all sorts of food, right? Absolutely. So it is another type of food safe kind of bucket.
That's a great idea.
And it's actually, if it's sitting on your shelf, and if somebody just sees that, they're not going to think it's full of survival gear, right? They're going to think, well, you got it in case of camping. So a little surreptitious, which is kind of nice.
Security by obscurity.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what it's in it, but nobody else does. So the other thing I'd changed off with, if you're really worried about moisture, like I would be here, maybe think about throwing a desiccant pack inside, like just a hand warmer, O2 absorber, like a silica gel. Aluminum tape if you really want, but that's going to give away the whole obscurity thing.
Yep.
But yeah, just an honorable mention to all sorts of alternate bucket types. But so that's what I kind of did with that, because same idea. You can use it to hold water that's clean. You can use it as a porta potty, I suppose, but not at the same time. Pro tip.
Nope. No, that's a one or the other. Definitely not both.
Definitely not both.
And it's definitely, once it's been a porta potty, it's not good for holding water.
Yeah, no, that's
there's a way to make that clean enough afterwards.
I don't think you have to be Bear Grylls to figure that one out. So anyway, but it's so funny. We both got space blankets because, of course, weight, space, and everything else, and it's kind of like the go-to. And they're at the dollar store for $1 a piece. But really, I mean, I'd rather have a wool blanket, but we're in a 5-gallon bucket, right? So
exactly right. And so the idea is something compact. You can grab it and go. You can take it anywhere with you. I can fit, and I've proven this with my, with my car full of people, I can still fit 6 5-gallon buckets in my car. So even if I had 4 people that were part of my plan, and all 4 of us had our own 5-gallon bucket, we would have lots and lots of equipment together, and still be able to move without too much, without taking up all the space in the car.
Well, Infamous mentions you can get the water coolers from work. Please don't steal them. Make sure they're used to give away or something.
We do not encourage theft or any kind of illegal activity at all.
Yeah, until such time as shit has hit the fan without rule of law. That's just liberation versus stealing, because if you need to survive, it's kind of liberation. It's
no longer, if there's no rule of law, it's no longer stealing.
Well, that's right. So, yeah.
But if you have access to those legally and morally, then that is a great way to do it. I'm very much tip of the hat to Ian for figuring that one out.
Yeah, but RJM or RYJM, sorry, points out the fact that Bear would probably still use it after he shat in it, because he had an episode where he drank his own urine or something, wasn't it?
He did. He absolutely did, and that was the point where I kind of tuned out with him, because as much as he's an excellent actor, and I'm going to use again, you can't see the air quotes because my camera's off. He is an actor, and he is a heck of a personality. He is. He definitely doesn't go as far as he could in terms of educating the public. So he's more about showing off than educating, and that was I wasn't a fan of that particular episode, because that was he was good. He said, yeah, you can drink your own urine. It's not very good, but you can do it. And my argument is it's the opposite of hydrating, because it's got so much sodium in it. So
yeah.
Anyways, go back to our water episode.
Well, I mean, like Martin Hartwell ate a nurse from Spence Bay after a plane crash, but that doesn't mean we're going to do a show on it. So, I mean, there's some Canadian lore for you. But
so let's go circle back. I think actually it was episode number 7 was the first water episode that we did. I remember that because that was the first episode I was on. But go back to episode 7. You can use urine to distill or filter with that sort of water filter into drinkable water. Please don't drink your own urine.
Yeah.
Anyways.
No. Anyway, so space blankets, yeah. So Hank's a paracord. So I threw in 2 versus your 5 or whatever, but because I figured like 200 feet. If you need more than that, you're probably just using bad technique. I don't know. For 72 hours anyway, because you're going to tie down your tarp. You're going to do a couple other things, but I don't know. The only thing I was a little bit different than yours with the Sawyer is I had a steel large canteen. I was going to show it off, but my daughter took it this evening to use for drinking herself. But it can be put in the fire or heated up over a stove. But it's just like a large enough canteen that's like the 1.5, 2 liter versions. Yep. I had one Baofeng in there as well, but I put with a car charging attachment and the external antenna that actually goes up on top of the roof and stuff. Assuming that you might be in convoy, then of course you want to have 2. But one little notable exception there too is you can use that chirp software to pre-program multiple frequencies into the phone ahead of time. It's much easier to do. But also, if you have a bunch of buddies with the same radio, you can hook them all up and just dump the same frequency kind of loading channel system onto each one. So that you can just say go to channel number 5 and everybody's on the same page. And
that makes sense.
Yeah, so this chirp software is freeware. It's you just get on the internet, download it, and I just started toying with it myself. I haven't actually programmed a radio with it because I'm obviously new to the amateur radio thing. But once it gets going, it should be a pretty good thing. So
Awesome. No, that's an excellent plan. Yeah, pre-program. The only reason I would say do the printed version is if my radio happens to get damaged and I find one along the way.
Yeah.
Again, for 72 hours, the likelihood of that is pretty slim. But again, better to have and not need than to need and not have. And for the space and weight of a piece of paper, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. So knife, we can go all autistic on it as well. But I mean, like I just had the same idea as your Bear Grill. It's just like that more light my fire. So it's the Swedish stainless steel or carbon knife, your choice. Like,
Yep.
But it's got the fire steel inside of it. It's basically the same version as the companion heavy duty OD green, but it's just got a fire starter in the back. Just have some strike area anywhere matches, kind of in a sealed container as well. Same as you, whistle compass, bear banger, and pen flares. Because obviously around here there's a lot of bears, and if you're in the trees and you want to make yourself noticed, pen flares too, just to get above the tree line.
That also makes a great fire starter.
Yeah, same thing with gas too, I suppose, right? Shit ton of Cliff Bars or Datrex, whatever I can fill up the bucket with. So I think I got like 12 in there before I was like, I could probably shove another 4 or 5. I just didn't have them with me. So, if you can get like I don't want to have any food in this bucket that's going to require cooking or anything else. So basically it has to be pre-done. So whether it's the Datrex bars or the Cliff Bars or anything else that you prefer, just go ahead and shove a bunch of those in there with a variety of flavors so you don't get dietary fatigue. Basically because I don't want to sit there and have to worry about cooking at the same time I'm trying to, survive on my own for 72 hours or provide for others or whatever with minimal supplies, right?
Sure, that makes good sense.
TP and BZK wipes, so the little, single-use wipes, or alcohol's Purell if you can find it nowadays, or anything else. Just something for hand sanitation and TP, because of course, as we know, sanitation or lack thereof does kill.
Dysentery's a bitch.
Yeah, you mentioned I'm blown away by the good idea with the tape. That's pretty good. So I had duct tape, but I just had it squished together to kind of compact it a bit. But I was like, no, your idea is much better.
What I do with all my duct tape, I store it 2 ways when I'm carrying it with me. So it's either wrapped around something, which is either my water bottles, or even if you just wrap it around a straw, and then you can run a little piece of paracord through that, and then it'll hang and roll. Or I wrap it around old gift cards.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't take up any space. It doesn't stick to the gift card. But you can get 30 or 40 feet of duct tape into something that is literally the size of the size and thickness of 2 gift cards, and it's lots.
And so the only other thing I had to was a little different than yours was I had wool toques. So even if it's summertime, like especially in places like Alberta where it is like I said arid climate at night, it still goes down to like 8-10 at night, right? So there's never really a bad time of year to have the old surplus wool toques from the surplus store, Canadian Forces style. So you can get them in green or blue or whatever you want. They're maybe like $5-10 a pop. And because once you cover your head, you always feel warmer no matter what. And disposable ponchos from the dollar store. So they're only going to last a day or two, but that's a 72-hour kit, right?
You only need it to last a day or two.
That's right.
Yep.
Change of underwear and socks, not just for hygiene, but also for morale purposes. And same thing if you get your feet wet, that's the last thing you want.
Yep.
The tarp, like you said, the Canadian Tire 9x12 tarps, which go on sale for like $4?
$4, yep.
And they're only going
to you overspent. Yep.
Yeah, and they're only going to last 2 or 3 days, I guarantee it. But that's all you need for this, right?
That's all you need. Yep.
And the last thing I forgot to mention, I just added the last second here, is the first aid kit, because ouch pouch mostly, not like the full on tourniquet special, but things are going to happen, right? Yeah, that's right.
That's what the duct tape's for. Duct tape and TP. You've got a first aid kit.
That's right. Put down some TP, wrap it with duct tape, good to go. Good luck.
Welcome to every construction site ever.
Yeah,
it's usually electrical tape when that happens.
They never mention what happens when you actually pull that duct tape off. But anyway.
By the way, if you do end up with some adhesive on your skin like that, baby oil is really good at dissolving that, and not you don't lose your hair that way. It is much more gentle on your skin.
Comment of the episode here from RYJ there. You should keep a pocket Mickey of Everclear in there. It cleans your hands and your soul.
That is solid advice.
That's awesome.
Where's oh man, that's great. We need Colin on here for that. I'm sure that would have been like the first 4 items on his list.
Well, yeah, exactly. His might have just been a pile of ammo up to about the 2 inches below the lid line, and then maybe some booze.
A couple of bladders of moonshine. Yeah.
Good to go. But I think Colin can pretty much survive without anything for about 3 days. So he's one of those guys. He's a pretty crafty guy. So
he sure is. He's yeah. So that is. I mean, again, your needs dictate, right? Where I am in Ontario, I have a very different climate from where Ian is on the West Coast, and so it makes good sense that the Tucas. I mean, it's 20 degrees out there today. It was 5 degrees last night. There was frost on the grass this morning when I got out of my tent. So it doesn't take much to need that comfort, and the comfort and morale of having something that you like and being warm is hard to beat. So that is your needs will vary, right? To me, a poncho is less important. Disposable poncho takes up space that a garbage bag could take, and I find garbage bags to be more versatile, so I would probably favor that.
That's a good point.
Got their, yep.
Audience is on fire today. So Freya says, don't mistake duct tape for TP. Solid advice.
I mean, I'm hoping for you it's not the voice of experience. I can't say I haven't done that in my life, and I can't say that it hasn't been disastrous. So that's that's solid advice. Do that. However, they both burn, just for the record.
Yep. So podcast challenge time.
Podcast challenge. Do this for yourself. Assemble your own 5-gallon bucket. Ian says if a full bug out bag is out of the question, sure, or in addition to, or I would say in addition to, but also, I mean, bugging out is one thing, but if you simply need to have a bunch of stuff in one place at home, again, we had a tornado touchdown, a couple of miles from here. Fortunately, there wasn't a lot of damage other than trees going down, but if you had to close up a part of your house because a tree came crashing through a wall, then you have all that stuff in one spot. So it's one thing you don't have to think about. It's one less thing to think about.
Cool.
Yeah.
Tell us what you did, and if you have any things that we glaringly missed or whatever, just let us know. We're always open to suggestions. We might ignore them, but we're open at least.
Well, and it's good debate no matter what, right? It's good to discuss. If there's something that is, especially, and if you are out there in podcast land and building one, and you've decided to do something a little bit different from what we have, tell us why, right? If you live in a different climate where something else is a higher priority for you, then I'd love to hear about it.
No, and I guarantee we missed a couple good things there too. So
I was gonna put a hammock in there, and I didn't. I actually had my hands on a hammock. It was pre-strung. Everything was ready to go. Just hook it up to a couple of trees and tighten the straps, and off you go. And it was probably about the size of a 2-liter pop bottle. And
you can get really the net version ones you can get really small, but actually I had one of those for a college survival club course. So during my college program, I was taking a weekend survival course up in the wintertime in the mountains here in Kelowna. And I brought a little hammock with me thinking I was super smart because I'd be off the ground. And, I'd be, laughing it up at my friends who were freezing, shivering there on the pine needles and stuff. And my behind was never so cold. It was crazy because I had all the blankets on top, and I thought I wrapped some enough around me, but not enough. And so top was okay, but the bottom I was horrible.
But if you'd had that tarp with you, then you would have been able to block the wind, and it probably would have been better.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
Upcoming events. We do still have TACCOM Canada on the books for September 11th to 13th, and we did put the ticket link in the show notes. However, that's still kind of up for debate because of the COVID thing. So if we hear back from Fred as far as a yay or nay, we will continue to plug it, but we're hoping with bated breath it still goes on because that'd be the only show that does go on this year.
Who knows? And I'm not gonna make a prediction on that because I don't want to jinx it.
Well, actually, you would know because in Ontario, I don't understand these phases, these 1, 2, 3, 4 phases. So, are they allowed meetings of bigger than 50 people right now or something?
It says gatherings of no more than 10. However, construction sites are exempt from that, and hospitals are exempt from that, and a whole bunch of there are more exceptions than there are rules to follow. So basically, don't have more than 9 people on your own property, but if you are in any kind of public place, it seems to be all right. I don't know how that's. I don't know how it's being enforced. I know the Ministry of Labor around here is being really particular about hand washing and contact tracing. So they want. So right now, like malls are being reopened. I don't know how they call that okay because there's going to be more than 10 people that work there, right? So what are they considering a gathering? Because you've got people in the stores, and you've got is it across the entire mall? Is it a specific section of the mall? I don't know, and I haven't received clear direction on that. I know the Ministry of Labor is trying to contact trace. So what they've asked the malls to do is have every person who works in all of the stores go in through one entrance, sign in and out, so that if there is a case that happens and that person can be traced back to the mall, then they can trace back who else they can confirm at least who the workers were that would have come in contact with that person. So that's beyond that, it's just an absolute governmental bureaucracy with no clear answer.
It sounds like a giant make work project, but
I mean, isn't Ontario just a giant make work project?
Pretty much. Anyway, shout outs time. I just got one for listener Steve, who's actually not only helped me behind the scenes, but also on the show here as well. Before I forget, he also mentions with the radios you can email the programming file with that chirp program from. You can email it to your buddies so they can actually do it from another province, or
That's cool.
you can clone from radio to radio if you have the right cable. So, you can. It's basically just like touching phones type of thing. Touching radios. You just transfer the channel setup and numbering system and everything else, and all the CTCSS codes, like all the privacy codes and stuff. So it saves a lot of work, that's for sure.
Well, and I'll shout out Ian. He sent me a whole bunch of study links and guides for the shortwave radio, and I've been studying voraciously on that for the last few days, and got the books open again tonight, and spend a few more hours this next couple of weeks, and I'm trying to find an evaluator here in the 519 area code. Again, if anybody's listening and can help me out with that, find an evaluator that can administer the test. Nobody seems to be willing to do it around here right now, but I'm feeling confident. I've done a couple of practice tests, and I've done a lot of studying since, and feeling confident that I could at least get the ticket. So.
So I mean, I don't know if you're willing to give away your general area, but if there's an examiner in the Southern Ontario area.
Well, 519 area code. I mean, that covers Windsor to Kitchener, and a little bit around that area. So, if you're in that area, within kind of a 2-hour drive of London, I'm willing to travel and willing to bring coffee and donuts, and I'll even bring the good donuts, not the stuff from Tim Hortons.
Yeah. Well, and I was able to do mine online, so you never know. I mean, and you might be able to do one online too. So, anyway, speaking of which, maybe even get a hold of. I might give you my guy then too.
Yeah, if it can be done online, I'd love to do it that way.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So moving to the outro, I guess. I'm going to bring episode 72 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast to an end. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. Please help us out and submit a review. It helps other people find us.
We do record these shows live on Facebook and YouTube. If you want an early peek at the shows, give us a like and a subscribe on our YouTube channel, Canadian Prepper Podcast, and click on the notifications tab. If you want to get me directly, you can find me on Instagram at ppswo, or by email here, Alan with one L at prepperpodcast.ca.
Right on. So you can reach Ian directly by emailing me here at theislandretreat@gmail.com. You can also find me on Canadian Patriot Podcast on iTunes and YouTube. We record Monday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. You can find us discussing why government waste and society just triggers me in general. You can reach Eric if he ever chooses to answer emails or show up to shows at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca. Thanks for joining us. Until next time.
One show. It's one show that he's missed.
Okay, fine. I gotta throw him under the bus at some point. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, be prepared, stay safe,
and keep learning.